Good morning. Denise Dryden from Whitefish, Montana, and welcome to my weekly exploration of lots of different ideas on relationship, parenting, working, being present within yourself. So today we're going to talk about how to voluntarily simplify. And it sort of made me laugh because I was part of this whole voluntary simplicity movement in the mid 90s. And I've got this I've probably got about 30 books downstairs. But I thought about it and I thought, well, what comes up for us when we think about simplifying or voluntary simplicity? And hi, Kelly. She's online. This is awesome. So, the first thing that comes up is Joe Dominguez, your money or your life. How do you cut back on money and start creating the life that you want? Dwayne Elgin was like the founder of the term voluntary simplicity. And he comes at it from an environmental spot, which is, know your spot on the earth, protect the earth, make all of your decisions based on how to leave the least impact as possible. Sue Bender did this whole series on the Amish, how special they are in being able to identify their role on this earth and leave very little behind and live very simplistically. I'll get it. Janet Lures was the one who sort of turned me on to all of it. She wrote a book called The Simple Living Guide. And she walked us through relationships, lifestyles, work. She kind of pulled it all together and started websites and all of that stuff. And that was 20 years ago. It's been so exciting to see how this has deepened within me. And I wanted to bring that to you today and bring it into that therapeutic, metaphysical, historical perspective for you. And let's just play with this and see where it goes, okay? So, what if living simplicity is a state of being? It really doesn't have anything to do with the direction you apply it, whether it's money, home, work, health, or anything like that. What if it's a state of being? And so during the winter holidays, over the winter break, my youngest daughter, who's in college, she just finished an anatomy class, and she's this magnificent storyteller. The two of us would sit up till 2 a.m. talking stories, telling stories back and forth. And she just finished an anatomy class, and she drove home something for me that I wanted to share with you. She said that the beautiful partnership between oxygen and blood is really the essence of who we are, yes. And the way that she described it is when we settle ourselves and we take a deep breath in, we fill our lungs with oxygen, and then the oxygen is like these little bubbles, and the blood picks up these bubbles and takes it out to all of the far reaches of our body and brings that oxygen to us in the most remote, most difficult spots in our body to find, right? That's normal anatomy. So what she did was she said, well, what if those bubbles are bubbles of light? And little pieces of light, the more that we can sit and we can breathe, we fill our bodies with pieces of light that empower us, that bring us oxygen and light and a sense of being that is impossible to replace anywhere else. So if we want to fill our bodies with these little bubbles of light, how often do we sit and breathe deeply and breathe it in and let those light bubbles expand into our body? How often do we get outside and walk and breathe and fill our body with bubbles of light? How often do we do something really challenging, like skin up the side of Big Mountain, or kayak or raft, where there's adrenaline and there's things going and our body's being filled with bubbles of light? How often are we in that passion where we breathe deeply and our body is full of bubbles of light? So if what we really are looking for is how often, where, when do we take the time to fill our bodies with bubbles of light so that we have a sense of presence, right? When those bubbles are there, when that oxygen's doing its job, we're fully present. We're aware. We look around and things become a lot calmer. So I'm here to say that if we're going to explore simplicity, let's start there. Let's start with how often are you able to take a deep breath? How often are you conscious of how powerful that breath is in your body? How often do you carve out spaces of time in your day so that you can access that deep, present, connected breathing? Because when we do that with ourselves, with another human being, we're in a compatible, symbiotic place with them. Whether it's someone we love, whether it's someone we're raising as a child, whether it's a working team that we are problem solving with in our employment, it doesn't have to be in any one specific area. It can go wide and go anywhere. So when we use that breathing piece as our foundation, how do I know that this is the most powerful place that I am? My lungs are filling with oxygen, filling with light, and I'm present. How do I create as many opportunities for that as possible? So one of the things that came up for me is when I'm in that deep connected place in breathing and those little bubbles of light are throughout my body, all of a sudden I have a perspective of what works for me and what doesn't work for me. I know that I'm in that sort of bliss moment where I'm content, when I'm happy. And I can pay attention to how many things I've surrounded myself with, layers and distractions and things that don't really matter, that are someone else's agenda or my ego's agenda or my kid's agenda, or, it can go on to a lot of different directions. But I notice that there's these layers, there's all these things that keep me from that deep level of breathing. So whether we do it voluntarily, consciously, willingly, when we take those deep breaths and we recognize what really matters, we can see those pieces of distractions that might need some tweaking, might need to go. So, according to Joe, it might be money. Let's look at where the money, how come I'm working so hard? How come no matter what I do, I'm in this conflict relationship constantly with my children or my husband or my wife or my partner? And so this is what happens, is that we're not present when we don't breathe. So voluntary simplicity is really about breathing, isn't it? I'm still trying to get over this cold. Okay, so when we have too many nights, what came up for me is the things that I know are distractions for me. Too many nights out with acquaintances, people that I said I would do something and I don't really want to. Too many work hours. That was the old life before I moved to Montana. It's like, I'm spending 10 hours at work, an hour in the car going to a job to work 8 hours to come back for an hour, and none of that is providing me with the quality of life that I want. Too many expenses. Maybe I'm living in a place that I really wish was a little bit cheaper so I didn't have to work so hard. Too much pressure to pay my bills. The finances can be extraordinary when we're carrying so many rental car or leased cars, cell phone bills, utilities, houses, clothes, all of that stuff. These are sort of those distractions that come in and you're like, I get it. They are getting in the way of me breathing. So when we don't have enough time with ourselves, when we don't have enough time with the people we love, when we don't have enough time to create passion, we stop breathing and we stop filling our lungs with those little bubbles of light. So if we can create more time when we're actually in that space where we're filling our lungs with bubbles of light so that they can go through our body, then we have a direction to go. We have a presence and a sense of being. So play with this week. Do that breathing. Find out what comes up for you. Find out what's tapping you on the shoulder going, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be a volunteer in this committee because I do all the work and I'm exhausted and I'm stressed out and that doesn't work for me. Simple living is about being in a world that holds you, that just holds you, that holds you in deep satisfaction and presence. And if you're not doing that, and if you can't access that, start with your breathing first. And the reason I think that this is important is that when we are present, truly present, we are free of being moved and manipulated by media, by politics, by bosses, by partners, by children. And we become the most powerful rebel there is. We become the one who's like, yeah, that doesn't work for me anymore. I'm not going to do that. And those strings, those puppet strings that move us around in life, stop having their power over us. So it starts voluntarily, consciously, with breathing. Deep, deep, present breathing that fills your body full of bubbles of light. So voluntarily simplifying is about consciously learning how to breathe, who you are when you're fully present, and what matters to you. So if you want more of this and you want to explore what that means for you, what that means for you in a relationship, look up my name on my website, my information. You can watch some more videos. It's DeniseDrydenCoaching.com. And let me know what you think. Drop me an email, drop me a line. Meanwhile, take deep breaths and fill your beautiful body with bubbles of light. Have a good day.